Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is episode 12 of AWS tutorials. In this video, we'll see how to do role-based access control using AWS Cognito and API Gateway. By the end of this video, you will be able to create admin and user access using Cognito, secure APIs with role-based access rules, and the clear picture of real-world authorization logic. Now first see what is authentication versus authorization. Authentication means who are you? And authorization is what can you do. So here OAuth solves authentication and role solves authorization. So let's see how to implement this thing. So this is going to be your flow diagram. Client will first make a login request to AWS Cognito. AWS Cognito will return JWT token. Then client will use that JWT token and pass it in authorization to API gateway. Then API gateway will validate the JWT token first. And here it will see whether this client is authenticated or not. After that authentication, it will pass the request to AWS Lambda, and here this Lambda will do the role check. It will check whether the client is authorized to perform that specific action or not. So let's see what we'll build in this video. In this video, we'll create a secured REST API. We'll use Cognito for user authentication. We'll define admin and user access rules and enforce role-based authorization. So now let's do that. We are in AWS console. Here you just make sure you are in the correct region. Now let's open Cognito. As I have already covered Cognito in the previous video, so I will not go much into deep. And if you are new to Cognito, please watch that video. I'll put the link in the description. So now let's create a user pool. Here we'll select SPA and let's provide the application name. Dev by Shashank RBAC app, role-based access control app. In sign-in identifiers, we'll select username. We'll disable self-registration because here we are going to create the users. And for sign up, we need email here. So let's select email and we can leave this return URL and create the pool. So now our pool is ready. Let's go into that pool. Now let's go to this app clients. So this is the app client that we just created. Here we need to change the authentication flows as we need to sign in via username and password. So let's edit it. And here we can disable others. Just enable user password authentication and refresh token authentication. And just leave all the configuration as it is and save the changes. So now let's create groups. We'll go into this groups and here we'll create a group. So first we'll create an admin group and let's create the group. Now let's create another group and name it as users. And let's create it. Now we need to create two users, one for admin group and one for users group. So let's create first user. So let's provide the username, Shashank. In the email address, right now I'm providing any random email. And if you create user, you can provide your email address. And just make sure if you are providing any random email, just mark this checkbox. It will make your email address as verified. Now let's set a temporary password and let's create the user. Now let's create one more user for users group. I have provided the username. In the email address, I will provide any random email. Mark it as verified and set a password. And let's create the user. So if you see here, both our users are created. Here, as we have created the users manually, we need to first reset the password. We'll do it before making the call to API gateway. Now let's add these users into their groups. Here we'll open admin group. And here I'll add a user to this group. Here I'll add Shashank. I'll go back. And in the users group, I'll add John. So now our Cognito pool is ready. Now let's create a Lambda function. Let's create a function. Provide the function name. Dev by Shashank role-based access control Lambda. In the runtime, we'll select Python 3.14 and let's create the Lambda. So our Lambda function has been created. Let's go to the code section. Here, let's just log the event. Guys, we are logging event object so that we can see in which format we are going to receive input from API gateway in this Lambda. And based on the input structure, we'll create our Lambda function. Using this way, we do not need to remember anything. And based on the event, we can write our code. That's the easiest way. Now let's deploy the code. Now we'll create an API. Let's create an API. We'll create REST API. Provide the API name. Dev by Shashank role-based access control API. In the endpoint type, we'll select regional, and in the security policy, let's select this recommended one and create the API. Now let's create a resource. Let's provide the resource name. I have put access control here, and let's create the resource. So guys, to perform role-based access control, we'll create two methods here, get method and post method. Let's create get method. In the integration type, we'll select Lambda function, enable Lambda proxy integration. And here, let's select that Lambda that we just created. And just leave all the configuration as it is and create the method. Now let's create a post method. Enable Lambda proxy integration. Here, let's select the same Lambda again and create the method. Now let's deploy these two APIs. We'll reload this page. Now this button is enabled. Let's deploy these APIs. Let's create new stage, name it as dev and deploy. So now let's test it from Postman first. We'll copy this invoke URL for get. Let's create a new request. Paste the URL and let's test it. So if you see here, we got hello from Lambda. Now let's try the post request as well. This is also working fine. We got hello from Lambda. Now let's enable authorization as well. For that, we need to go into this authorizers and let's create an authorizer. Here, let's provide the authorizer name, Cognito Auth. And here in the authorizer type, select Cognito, select the correct region. And here, let's select that pool that you just created. Here I have two pools, so I just need to check the values. So this is the pool that we just created. In the token source, we need to provide authorization because in the authorization header, we'll pass the access token and let's create the authorizer. So now our authorizer has been created. Now let's go to this resources. Let's open this get method. Edit method request settings. Here in authorization, we need to select Cognito Auth and save it. Let's do the same for post as well. Here we'll select Cognito Auth and save it. Now let's deploy these two APIs. So now let's try it from Postman. It should not work this time without access token. So here we are getting unauthorized error. So now let's generate the access token. This is going to be a post request. And here we need to select this URL. I've already explained about this in the previous video. URL is https cognito idp. This is your region name in which you have created the user pool and AmazonAWS.com. In the header section, we have to provide two parameters: content type, application X AMZ JSON 1.1, and second header is X AMZ target. Here we need to provide AWS Cognito Identity Provider Service dot initiate auth, as we are going to initiate the authentication process. Now in the body section, let's select raw and JSON and provide a JSON object here. Here first we need to provide auth flow. It is going to be user password auth. Now we need to provide client ID. So now let's fetch the client ID. We'll go to Cognito, go into this app clients, and here you just copy this client ID and paste it here. Now we need to provide authentication parameters. Here we need to provide username and password that we just created. So I'm providing admin username and its password. Now let's click on the send button. So here if you see, we got a challenge. Challenge is new password required. So the thing is, first we need to reset our password as we are using this user for the first time. Okay, so now let's create another post request. This is going to be a post request. Here we need to select the same URL, Cognito IDP, AP South 1, AmazonAWS.com. In the header section, we need to provide a content type as application X AMZ JSON 1.1, and the second header is X AMZ target. And here we need to provide AWS Cognito Identity Provider Service dot respond to auth challenge, as we are going to respond on the authentication challenge that we received in the previous call. Now in the body section, we need to provide a JSON object here. So here first we need to provide the challenge name. So let's copy it from this previous call. Now we need to provide client ID. Let's copy it from here. Now we need to provide session. So in the previous call, we have received this session. We just need to use this. And just remember guys, this session is valid for 3 minutes only. After 3 minutes, it will get expired. In that case, we need to regenerate this. Now we need to provide the challenge response. So in the challenge response, we have to provide username, Shashank, and new password. So I'll provide Shashank @1234. So this is our JSON object, challenge name, client ID, session, and challenge responses. Now let's click on the send button. So if you see guys, our session got expired, so we need to regenerate it. Let's go into this previous call. Let's click on the send button. And now copy this session value. And now let's click on the send button. Here if you see it worked, it has provided the access token, ID token, and refresh token. So now let's reset the password for other user as well. Here I'll provide the second username. So here I provided the credits for second user. Now let's click on the send button. Here also we got the same challenge, new password required. Let's copy this session object and paste it in the second call. And here you just update the username and password. And now let's click on the send button. So here if you see, it has provided the access token, ID token, and refresh token for us. So it worked. And now let's go to Cognito and verify it. Here let's go into this user section and let's refresh this. Here if you see, the confirmation status is confirmed here. Now we can use these two users and fetch the access token. So guys, now let's go to this first request. And here let's try with the admin user first. We'll click on the send button. And here if you see, we got access token, ID token. So now let's copy this ID token and let's pass it in first request. This is the first get request. Here we need to pass it in the header section. Here we need to provide authorization in the key, and in the value we need to write bearer space. After that we need to paste that ID token. Now let's click on this send button. So if you see, we have received hello from Lambda. So now let's check the event object and implement our code. So this is the authentication part that we have completed. Now we have to implement the authorization logic. Okay, so for that, let's go into that Lambda. So here, let's check the event object that got logged in CloudWatch. For that, we'll go into this monitor section. Let's open view CloudWatch logs. So this is our log group. Here, let's open this log stream, the latest one. So this is our event object. Let's copy it and paste it in JSON viewer. We'll click on this format button. So guys, this is the event that we are receiving from API gateway. So if you see, the first is resource access control, HTTP method is get, and in the header section, we are getting this authorization and all. Now, if we scroll down, now inside this request context, we have this authorizer, and inside it, we have claims, and inside that, we have this Cognito groups. And here we are getting the group name, that is admin. That Shashank username is part of this admin group. So here we are getting its group name. So based on this group name, we have to apply our condition. So now let's implement the logic in our Lambda function. We'll go into this code section. So let's fetch the resource name first. Resource equals to event resource. Now fetch HTTP method. HTTP method equals to event HTTP method. Now we need to fetch group. So that we have to read from event request context. Authorizer. So now we need to fetch groups from event request context, authorizer, claims, Cognito groups. Now based on these three things, let's implement the logic. So let's first put a condition on resource name. This is our resource name. If the HTTP method is get, in that case, we can allow access to all the users. So here we can write return status code 200. And here we'll write get is allowed for all authenticated users. Now let's implement logic for post. If HTTP method equals to post. Now here we need to check if admin is present in these groups or not. If admin in groups, return status code is 200. And in the body will return post is allowed for admin users only. And in the else condition, let's return 403. A post is not allowed for non-admin users. And in the else condition, as a best practice, let's return invalid HTTP method. And here in the else condition, let's return resource not found, because we have created only one resource access control. So now guys, let's deploy this code. Now let's invoke it from Postman. So this is our get API, and here we are using admin token. Now let's click on the send button. So here we got get is allowed for all authenticated users. So this get method will work for both the groups, admin and users group. Now let's try the post method. We'll click on this post method. And here also in the header section, I need to provide authorization. And here let's provide the same token that we have provided here. And now let's click on the send button. So here if you see, we got 200 in the status code and the response is post is allowed for admin users. So that means it has allowed this post request for this admin user. So now let's generate the token for users group user. We'll go into this third request. And here let's provide that second username. That is John. Here you just provide the credentials for second users and click on the send button. Here if you see, we got the ID token and access token. Let's copy this ID token and let's paste it in the get request first. Let's click on the send button. Here if you see, we got get is allowed for all authenticated users. So here we are getting the expected results. Now in the post method, let's update the token value and let's click on the send button. Here we got 403. Post is not allowed for non-admin users. So this is how we can implement authorization logic. And in real world systems, so we have multiple groups like admin, users, HR, finance. We have different types of groups, and based on different types of groups, we can provide different permissions. So this is how authorization works. Coming back to this diagram, here we saw how this token validation is happening at this API gateway and how the authorization part is getting handled by our Lambda. So thank you guys for watching this video. In the next video, we'll see how to do API request and response mapping in API gateway. And if you like this video, please subscribe the channel and press the bell icon. And if you have any questions or any doubt, just drop it in the comment box.